January 27, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. This is really big sell-off in the in the pre-market. Actually gapped down and never closed the gap. It sold off and moved pretty much 150 points, almost a full 150 points, which is crazy. Takes a bounce, recovers, and then on the open, it just kind of has this really crazy sideways choppy price action. The only news that came out was at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard, which is about right here, was the new home sales. Other than that, there was nothing. What was really interesting is this week is FOMC rate decision, and they actually provide the rate decision on Wednesday, whether they're going to increase it, decrease it, or keep it steady. Now, every other rate decision so far, people have been able to, I guess, feel confident that they're going to raise it or lower it, and they've been lowering it since it's been raised up so much. But this time it's a little different because I think it's a new administration. The economy is doing so-so, but then they're afraid inflation might go away. So typically the Mondays and Tuesdays of that week, trading and volume is very low. There is a lot of volume here. There's way more than it has been the entire last week. This is how I drew the charts today. And it was really challenging. It was kind of the way it was when I was watching the charts today, I felt like it was just Trap City. There's a lot of little things happening, a lot of traps happening. It was hard to find good, clean, big channels. So I was playing a lot of these smaller channels. And even then, it was hard to find a trustworthy range that didn't, I guess, break down after a short period. You could say, but this is all in hindsight, there's probably a bigger range like this. But even if you drew something like this, it doesn't really help. And I was playing these smaller ranges. There's more reliable support than there is resistance up here. And it was just, yeah, I was just watching and it was just like a lot of things that I felt was, I guess, somewhat tricky. I took a total of one trade today. It was a little more aggressive because the risk was higher. But I also, since my poor performance last week, I was more willing to just take the entire position off and not even try for runners today. So that's what I did, and I was profitable. So I can get into the trades right now. So this is the pre-market. It looked like it went down in three legs, one leg, two leg, consolidation here, and a third leg. In the pre-market, I saw maybe only one decent trade, which is this spike, break, tested the new high, comes back. EMA is starting to act as support here. And I do see a new high here. It's a first entry long, second entry long. It's a decent second entry long. This candle is pretty big though. It's 27 ticks, which is, pretty large. If I saw this in real time, I don't think I would take it. But this is the pre-market. I don't trade the pre-market. It kind of moves up on this green up channel. I also want to point out that when I was, throughout the day, I was just trying to see if there was something that fit here just to practice my chart read. And this bigger channel could fit with a breakout here. But yeah, it looked like it's better as two big legs. So on the open, now from here to here, there's so many candles, right? But you have to look at the timestamp. This is on the open. And on the open in about 2 minutes, this is actually only 1 minute and 45, so about 2 minutes right here, it printed all these candles. So there was no real way that I could see to safely enter this. I mean, if you just took it on a hunch that it was going to bounce, but you would have to have known there might have been a channel here, but how would you have known to draw this? Because I was playing with a lot of different channels today to try to make this fit. So this is more of a luck of the draw if you actually were able to jump on this, because there was no, in my opinion, clean way to jump on this. Plus, this happened in less than 2 minutes, and it's in the first 2 minutes of the market open. So that's just like screaming high risk right there. So it moves up. Keep in mind, I don't have this yellow up channel established yet because I had a lot of different other channels. I started a channel from this one, from here. They're all kind of shooting all which ways. But I do have these shortened trend channels. And I was thinking there's some kind of range here. So I did see a new low here, clearly a new low. First entry short, pull back, second entry short. Second entry short has failed on this candle. And they have a new high. It's a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Also looks like a visual first entry long, pullback, second entry long. So I thought this is a possible trade. It's a bounce off the EMA, which is starting to show support. Two legs down after the break of this green up channel. And I like that this trigger bar is engulfing this kind of poor signal bar for the second entry long, but it's a good signal bar for the second entry short failure. But I didn't really want to take it because this bar is, 19 ticks, and you do have enough room for a quick 1 point scalp, but it felt like I'm pressing toward the high, so I left it alone. It's a possible trade though. It's a localized high because this isn't the new high. It did not recover and close this gap, which is, usually you think that would happen, but after this huge, severe 150-point drop, I don't know that it would necessarily just reverse course like that. Then prices hit a peak. First entry, second entry, no good clean signal bar below the EMA. I'm just sitting on my hands. It proceeds to kind of chop sideways. And why I thought it was really, really felt like Trap City today is there's these candles. The ATR was much higher than it had been in the last couple of days of trading, which was last week. But it's creating these like higher highs and higher lows, and it's just whipsawing. So if you were to take an entry and you put your stop, where you typically would think you should put your stop, it looks like it gets stopped out or, flush in a direction that you don't think it's going to go. It take you out and then go in the direction you thought it was going to go. So it's just very, very cautious. I mean, very, very trippy today. It's just kind of like it was looking to lure in a lot of people. Plus, you got these candles that are pretty much side by side, very congested. Like it is moving and showing a slight bullish bias, and then later shows a bearish bias. But a lot of times it's just like these candles printing side by side, so it could just knock you out. So these second entries look like they're very tight. They don't make clean moves. So it's just something that you see and you just kind of I feel like I'm going to get chopped up today. And that's kind of how I felt today. So I was really more conservative. It creates a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, creates a second entry long failure. I saw this, but it looks like, I mean, it's debatable whether I'm even in a range right here because it's potential fail breakout. And then where the bottom of the range is, clearly I might have enough room, but I just didn't really feel that confident taking this particular trade because it is a first entry pullback. This is like a really small second entry, so it could just be seen as a first entry and part of a bigger move, and the second entry might actually be down here. Nevertheless, it kind of worked, but I just didn't mark it, just kind of like something I saw. Prices then continue chopping sideways. I think there's some kind of support here, but it never really sets up for a good trade because there's a new low, first entry short, second entry short right here, bad signal bar. Even if you saw it as a visual second entry short, there's a small candle here, but it's above the EMA. EMA is a little flat. I don't really know what to make of this. And I was playing with a bunch of support lines, and this was one of them that eventually became this yellow one. So I wasn't really thinking of taking a short in this region where this could be a potential bounce. It punches through and moves down on this kind of orangey down channel. A lot of little small movements. It's a new low, first entry short, second entry short above the EMA. I'm not a big fan of that. Prices are clearly reversing. Now, even this green channel was a little challenging at first because I was thinking, is it something like this? Had a long dwell time outside, dragged it up to here. Then I still had an overshoot here, but there wasn't too much going on down here. EMA does act as support, but there was no clean second entries that I could find. The new high, it's a first entry long. Technically, your second entry long happens here, but it's a doji. It's red. Didn't really touch the EMA. No good bounce. Maybe this green up channel is coming into play, but I wasn't confident in this read, so I just left it alone. Again, it kind of consolidates in this trading range. This bigger trading range I kind of had drawn to here, but then I later dragged it out and extended it, but it still didn't really fit that well for later price action. So it's hard to trust it fully. Kind of creates a new high, first entry long, second entry long, no trade here, pushes down, has a failed breakout on this side. Looks like it's moving back into range. You don't really have a trigger for a second entry short here. It's a new low, first entry short, second entry short, and even if it did trigger with the way the body closed, it just doesn't seem very reliable. Pushes down, pushes back up, flushes down. So I look to the left and I'm thinking, this is really confusing. It was clearly a huge sell-off, and now there's a more shallow, aggressive push back up rally, but it doesn't fit too well in a channel. And so it's just kind of meandering over here. It falls through this trading range, which I don't even trust all that much, breaks through, and then it creates a more shallow down channel, which fit kind of nicely on this orange down channel, but there was no clean setups. I do see a new low here, clearly at least an identifiable new low, pushes up, first entry short, pull back. You have a second entry short, but it's just barely. So I saw it as a visual 2 legs up, first entry short, pull back, second entry short. The second entry short, I think is a possible trade, but I thought it was more aggressive because it looked like it made a clean two measured legs up. Break of this orange down channel needs a tested low. It's the first attempt down. You could say this is a second attempt, but it looked like it's all part of one leg. So I saw it as one leg, two leg, and then the green up channel has broke, tested, made one attempt up. Technically, it made it here and it pulled back and made a second attempt here. But again, it looks like it's just one leg, pull back, maybe a second leg. So it did engulf the previous bar. So I thought it was a possible trade. I don't like it because it's aggressive. Because if you look at the size of this bar, this is a 20 tick bar. Your stop has to be up here. And then your entry would probably be down here. You might have stepped it back to here, but seeing this, it didn't feel like a good enough setup to take that kind of risk. Now, I would take this risk, if everything lined up just right, EMA was above here, had to touch rejection and push back down. Clearly, it was in a downward bias, but this isn't that clear because it's kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. You do get a lower high here, confirmation, but then this lower high, I don't even like compared to the second entry short because this one engulfed. This lower high is following these two semi-neutral bars, and this lower high has a tail. I wish it had closed lower, like at the bottom. Then it would have been a nicer, more confident lower high. But it didn't do that. So if you didn't take this trade, I would not have recommended taking this trade. The prices move down, hits this consolidation area. Again, there's second entries in here, but they're nothing really worthwhile taking. Even at the key entry points, it's just not the right color because it needs to be a bearish bar or it needs to be a bullish bar. It just wasn't there. You have a failed breakout here, but I only saw as a new low here as a first entry short. First entry short failed breakout. It did move pretty much the size of this trading range. So from here to here, that's your trading range. It looks like it's about 4 points, and then it moved another 4 points out. So this is a huge breakout. I wasn't confident without a confirmed failed second entry long or second entry short, below the EMA. But even then, it just felt like it was hitting some kind of support here. So there's a failed breakout here. It looked dicey. Prices move up in this green up channel, breaks out, and I thought at one time maybe it's going to start making a move, and I dragged it up to here. It doesn't quite look right though, so I left it as an overshoot, kind of like right here, and it pushes back down. You have first entry long pullback. You have a second entry long way down here, but by that time, this setup isn't worthwhile. It's not clean. It chops sideways. I think I'm in a trading range, and I actually had my range a little lower initially. I actually had it closer to something like this. So it sets up for this trade, which I did actually try to take, but I missed. It creates a localized new high, clearly a new high here. First entry long, pullback, second entry long. Looks like two legs down. It pushes up, so it's a break of this yellow down channel. It made one attempt, and now it's making a second attempt. So I'm thinking it's coming from this top of the range. Granted, it didn't touch, but it might be good enough. It's like a visual first entry, visual second entry, and a lower high. I like the close of this signal bar. It closed kind of toward the end, and it flushed down and closed really strongly right here. And I'm thinking the two previous bars are also bearish. There's probably enough momentum for at least a quick 1 point scalp. So when I saw this in real time, I saw this close and I said, I want to get in on this trade. I got my order ready. It opens here. I dropped my order at the lows of this guy, hoping it'd come back. When it was starting to move down, I actually moved my entry from the lows of this doji to one tick below where I should have had it originally. But even if I did, I doubt by how fast this moved down, I would have gotten filled anyways. You would have had to do like 2 ticks down below this guy, but I moved to 1 tick down and then moved, made the scalp, and I decided, okay, I missed a trade, get out. And in this case, it flushed down really nicely. So this is a missed trade. It didn't quite hit the lows here, and it starts pushing back up. There's a fail breakout here. Say first entry long, but that's all you get. As this is moving up, it's dwelling kind of a while outside. So that's where I thought, okay, maybe is there something closer to here? Because it looks like it touches nicely, a fail breakout, another attempt to break of this green up channel. It creates a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long, and this actually sets up for my one and only trade. It's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, pushes up. It moves up and then flushes down. Now this is a 14 tick candle. It is really large, well, larger than I'd like, but I like what the price action was doing. It was choppy. It looked like it broke this green, tested the highs already, and now it's coming back down. It broke through the EMA on the failed second entry long. Didn't mean to move that. Move it back. And then it confirmed with a lower high. I like the lower high move a couple of ticks up and then flush down. So this one did close above the EMA. EMA is flat. I did have a trend line drawn here, and I said it's actually one touch, two touch, three touch. Strong push down, probably enough room and enough momentum for a quick 1 point. I wasn't going to go for two. I wasn't even going to try for runners because I actually had something like this. So I thought, okay, there's enough room for 1 point scalp right here before I potentially hit a bounce point. So I entered at the low of this candle, low and close, get my 5 ticks, 1 point, and I was just out. Take the whole position off, don't tempt fate. It moves and it actually breaks through. So if I did have a runner, I think I would have managed it like this. I would have taken my stop is actually way up here. I would have moved it to 1 tick below my entry right here. After seeing this, I probably would have moved it to here and then traced it and followed down each red candle. So I would have been down to here, kept it here, and then this candle probably would have stopped me out, stopped my runner out. But I didn't have a runner because I just didn't trust the setup. And at that point, I thought it dwelled so far, so long outside, could it be something like this? Turns out it didn't really matter because it starts to consolidate, hit this trading range. You have second entries, as I said, but you have big tails and things are just side by side, congested. It's kind of like the market's trying to figure itself out. Pushes down, still in this really, really choppy range. These candles are kind of large, and then pushes back up, breaks of the screen down channel. You have this huge move. I don't know what this is all about, but this is like a 28 tick candle, which is, I mean, following this really big candle previously, which was like a 22 tick candle. So this is just screaming at me like, whoa, stay out, just be happy with this one trade potentially. It creates a new low, say first entry short, pull back, second entry short, and a lower high. But even seeing something like this, because it's a break of this green up channel, tested made a new high, now it made a lower high. This is like huge though. It just feels, if you were to take this, I consider it quite aggressive. Second entry short, lower high, engulfed the previous two candles and moved up 2 ticks, then flushed down hard, broke below the EMA. Potential trade here, enough for maybe a 1 point scalp. And as you can see here, it was enough for a 1 point scalp, but this is a huge risk though. So I just didn't really want to take that trade. Looks like if you're trying to go for 2 points, you would have survived and probably gotten your 2 points here, but then you'd have to sit through this kind of noise. And at that time, it did draw this red down channel, but it doesn't quite fit as nicely as I'd like because this is a really big channel. It starts moving up, first entry long, pull back. You have a second entry long here, no clean setup. There's also a new low, first entry short, pull back, a second entry short right here. Let me just hide this. New low, first entry short, second entry short. This isn't a very good signal bar for second entry short. EMA is flattening. Not really sure what's going on. Sitting on hands. Just grateful for my one trade. And I'm just watching prices move back up. Breaks out of this range, which I don't really know how valid it is because is this the resistance or is the resistance lower here or is it actually up here? So I'm just watching now. Pushes up, breaks of this orange channel. New attempt, first entry long, pull back. You have a second entry long inside bar, no go. New low, first entry short, second entry short. This is your signal bar for second entry short. Again, but above the EMA, it's just confusing. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. I just know it just feels very trappy today. Pushes down. It doesn't even fall in this nice channel. It breaks and hits a new low. It doesn't quite even match like a consistent low. Now, in the bigger picture, you could say there was a consistent low here, but even then, the consistent low is actually a range. It's about a 5 point range, 4 to 5 point uh, support area. And so it's hard because if it had touched nicely with maybe within 1 point, then you could trust the range really well. But when it moved like 4 points, it could slightly be here, maybe even lower, maybe even higher. You're not really sure where it's going to bounce or if there's enough momentum to keep going down until you hit it definitively before it reverses. So knowing that, it felt a little tougher today. Plus, there's a lot of volume. These candles are printing, faster than they have been the previous days. So it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on. So I just sat and just kind of watched. Plus, it's getting close to the last hour of the day. Let me go ahead and extend this guy. It's just, again, really choppy price action. New high, first entry long. You have a second entry long, wrong color candle. Moving up, Localized new high, first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here, but I saw it as a first entry, visual first, visual second entry. Not a good signal bar. Maybe there's going to be a higher low, and you kind of get a higher low right here. But this is already really late in the day. I didn't want to risk it. I was thinking I might be moving into the top of this flimsy looking range that I'm not 100% sure of. Turns out it would have worked, but you don't know that at the time. Kind of pushes and then it just gets really choppy in the last 30 minutes, especially in the last 10 minutes of the day. So it was a very choppy, noisy day. I mean, even though in hindsight you look back and go, oh yeah, I could probably trade this. I don't know. I don't know that's the fact because when in real time you're just seeing these things reverse, come back down, flip around. It was just hard to trade, hard to trust my read. Granted, I'm sure if a more experienced trader would probably be able to decipher this and piece this out a lot better than I could have, but I'm not so sure that they would all say 100% confidently that there was, easy trading necessarily. Maybe it's just not as difficult as I thought it was, but it wasn't easy in my opinion. So hopefully that was helpful.